Hello everyone, Lou from Wallfrog, and I know it's tough right now. A lot of you are stuck at home, but this is a good opportunity for me to do a little bit of a longer video and dive deeper into a topic that's super important when it comes to marketing, and that is properly telling your story. I see a lot of generic marketing out there and a lot of generic websites, and I know how that typically happens. Usually the business owner is too busy throughout the day doing what they do best, and when they come home at night, it's tough to sit down and write about their business or their products or their service. But so what ends up happening is the website ends up with generic content and their website looks just like their competitor down the street. Or the web developer is just trying to breeze quickly through a project and not spend much time with it and ends up taking a lot of shortcuts and never takes the opportunity to learn about the business that they're helping. And again, that's why the websites end up with very generic content that's pretty similar to every other business in that line of work. One of our biggest challenges in the 14 years that Wallfrog has been in business is to get content from our clients so we can help them with their marketing. It's very difficult to do just for the reasons that I mentioned earlier. A lot of times when we're working on a web design project, we ask our clients to provide information about their services and about their business. And sometimes we'll get a little bit of pushback. They feel like it's homework or it's a chore, something they don't have time for, and they typically will say, well, isn't that what we're paying you for? Isn't that something that you guys do? Don't you write my content? And the reality is we want this website to be effective for you. We want it to work for you. And the best way to do that is to differentiate you from your competition. Now, we could write content that's, in line with what you do, but specifically, we don't know your challenges. We don't know your business history. We don't know the types of clients that you're actually trying to target. And just as importantly, those types of clients, what types of questions do they ask of you? Because every potential customer has a different set of questions, and we want to know specifically who your business targets. So your marketing and your website has to be in line with what you actually do as a business. And I'll give you an example, one that I use often because it really applies to this conversation. So I'm very big with the Chamber of Commerce. At one point I served on the board of directors, and I go to a lot of business after hour events. One in particular, I ran into a gentleman and it was right at the end of the event, so we didn't get a lot of chance to talk that night, but I did find out he was a local attorney, and he asked me what I did, and of course I told him Wallfrog, we do internet marketing, website development, and he's like, oh, I wish I met you a few weeks earlier. We actually just had our website done for our company, and he asked me if I could check it out at some point, and then next time I see him, could I give him my opinion? And I said, sure. So it was that next morning that I actually went online and looked at his website, and there's things that I like to see out of a website. One of them is that it's modern and mobile responsive, meaning that it'll take advantage of that real estate on a widescreen desktop monitor, but if you pull up that same website on a mobile device, it'll actually restack itself rather than squishing things down. So automatically it'll give that website visitor a great mobile experience. So his website did do just that, which was great. The other thing I look for is branding. So I see a lot of times a business will have either signage or they'll have their trucks lettered or graphics on their vehicles or their brochure, whatever. But for some reason, their website never has that. Doesn't have their colors, doesn't have their logo. And I think, again, it's because the web developer either didn't ask for that information, tried to take some shortcuts. However that happened, his website was branded. I noticed his logo up there, his colors. So again, check mark for that. I go on to navigation. Is the website easy to navigate? You certainly don't want people lost in it and getting frustrated. The other thing is photos. Professional, great quality, relevant photos. Photos that make sense to that particular business and what they do and who they are. And this website had very professional photos on there, so that was nice to see. And of course the content. Now the photos will draw the website visitor into the website and make them want to stay a little longer, but they're obviously there for the written content. So does it tell enough? Sometimes you could write too much, which is not good. But sometimes I notice that businesses tell very little about their business, which gets back to the same topic, of course. So we had a decent amount of content, and it looked pretty good content, so I like to see that. The other thing is calls to action. Okay, I'm on your website, I'm interested. Is there a button? Is there something that'll grab my attention? Is there a way to get started or reach out? So strong calls to action are always great on websites. So again, I looked at this website and it had all these elements. Looked like whoever did it did a really great job. So a few weeks later, I was at another chamber event, and I saw that same attorney, and he asked me what I thought about his website, and I told him that it was great. You have a professional website. It's mobile responsive. It's branded. It's got great photos, great content, calls to action. So everything looked great about the website. But I told him to tell me a little bit more about his business because the last time I saw him, we didn't have an opportunity to talk much. He proceeded to tell me that, of course, he's an attorney, but he's second generation. His father started the practice, that they're like Main Street USA type of business. They're not, they're not big city lawyer. A lot of their clients they've had for years. They see them at the grocery store. A lot of their clients come to them because they know that they will take some time with them. A lot of their clients aren't very law savvy. They may be very nervous about their situation, don't know, what to do. So they ask a lot of questions and they need a lot of hand-holding, which this particular guy was more than happy to do. And that's really the thing that he loves working with, is the ones who need that extra time, need that extra hand-holding. He's not intimidating. He doesn't wear a suit, kind of more like casual and laid back. And that was all great to hear his story. But when he asked me again, so you like my site? And I said, no. And he laughed, and we both laughed because, of course, I told him 10 minutes earlier that I liked his site, that I thought it was a great one. But the reality is, once I heard his story, I realized that website was a complete disconnect. It looked, book and gavel. It looked big-time city law. It looked New York City skyscrapers. It was very intimidating, which he's unintimidating. There's a lot of great photos, but they weren't relevant. They weren't relevant to him. There was guys in suit and ties and briefcases and, total disconnect from what his business was. So I have a feeling he was probably in the same boat as most of my clients are. They either don't have time to tell their story and write it down, or their web developer didn't really ask them to do that, didn't ask those questions, and just banged out another generic website. So if you're home right now, here is your opportunity. Here is time that you may not ever have again, where you can really think about who you are as a business person, what types of people you love to work with, what really drives you, what are you excited about for your business. And again, you don't need to write a book, but these paragraphs, any kind of information you can write down, even if it's informal, will help with future marketing pieces, certainly with social media, and definitely for your website. So you can approach this in a lot of different ways, but I'll give you a little bit of advice. If you think about the top questions that you typically get through the course of the week or the month in regards to your business, and turn those questions into answers, into paragraphs that we can use, or you could use on your marketing or on your website. And if you lead with that information, you're going to make an instant connection with that website visitor, because those are the typical questions that you get, and those are obviously the information that they're looking for. They're not coming to be impressed by the guys in the suits or the big skyscrapers. They're there to make sure that you are the right person for them, for whatever they are looking for. So again, your customers, so that's why that information coming from you is going to be super important. Again, I realize how difficult this can be. We were working with a landscape company once, and another guy that I actually met at a chamber event, and he was super excited about his business, wanted to tell me all about the great things they do and how they're so much different than their competition. He was very passionate about talking about his company. And, I don't know if it was weeks or months later, we ended up working on a website for him. When we asked him to provide that content to us, he literally wrote down, I do lawn mowing, edging, trimming, leaf cleanup, whatever the case may be. I'm like, anything else? Well, he ended up giving us like a sentence or two. And I said, I wish I could recall that conversation you had with us at the chamber event. So really that kind of got me thinking. So usually if you go to an event, a business-related event, maybe it's a personal event, maybe you're at just your friend's house and they say, hey, by the way, do you do this or do you do that? Tell me a little bit more. Record that conversation, and you can send it to us and we can transcribe it for you. But I think what happens is anytime I hear a business person talk about their business, they make so many great points about why you should be working with them. But when they're asked to write that down, it's blank. And again, I understand that that's very difficult, but very important. So in conclusion, what works best these days with marketing is authenticity and transparency. So again, that lends itself well to this topic of telling your story. So don't worry about what your competitors are doing. Don't try to impress anybody with marketing pieces that have nothing to do with your business specifically. You're not going to be the perfect match for everybody out there, but for the ones you are, if you properly tell them that story, they're going to know right away that you are that perfect match for them, and your inquiries are going to go up, your phone calls are going to go up, you're going to land more business because you are letting them into who you are and how you do things. And that's super important that they know that, because as soon as they expect one thing from your generic website or your overinflated website that tries to make you look like something you're not, and then you actually show up, or they show up to your establishment and they get a total different situation, they're not going to trust anything else that comes from you in the future. So again, be authentic, tell your story, let us know if we could help.